Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and to this time-lapse version of a lion cub in soft pastel. I hope that you enjoy the speedy version here. I will be releasing this as a full-length tutorial series if you'd like to work along. I'll add the links below to my Patreon channel. But if you enjoy this here, then please do hit subscribe here on YouTube and check out all of my other playlists. There's much more than just time lapses. This piece is 16 by 12 inches and I'm working on one of the lovely yellow tones of pastel matte paper. I decided to go back to pastel matte for this one because, as I've found in the past when I'm painting cats, especially big cats, they just have so much fur. There are so many tiny marks that I need to make to replicate the fur of a big cat. So I've gone back to pastel matte in the hopes that I can make use of a bit of pastel pencil on top of my soft pastel sticks to create extra detail within the fur. But the first thing that I had to figure out was what to do with the background. You can see in my photo reference, I'm in an animal shelter, so there is not a very natural looking background behind this little cub. I was very lucky to get up close to him when he was visiting the vets at this particular shelter, and I managed to get some fantastic shots of him. What a cutie. I am sure he is a bit less cuddly these days, as these photos were taken a couple of years ago now, and I've been meaning to get around to painting him. So I decided to keep the background reasonably simple, and I definitely went and had a look at some African themed photographs just to get a bit of a feel for the colour palette that I might want to use. So a little bit of work to try and tie together the colours in the background with what's going on the little cub. And when I change a background, when I'm using several photo references, the main thing that I have in mind is making sure that the warmth of the lighting matches in both the background and the subject, and then also the direction of the lighting too. So if there's anything within the background that shows the direction of the light, it's important that this direction of light matches the one on the main subject. So in this case, we've got the main light source coming pretty much from in front, but slightly to the left. We get slightly more shadow on the right side of the lion cub. So I'll just bear that in mind when I'm creating a bit of the light and shade on the branch that I've put him on. So instead of putting him on the rock, as we see in the photo reference, I quickly edited together some photo layouts to give me an idea of the colours in the background, and I swapped out that rock for a bit of a branch, something that I thought would match in better with the scenery. But with the distant background blocked in and keeping it pretty simple so that I can really go all in for the detail on the little lion cub, I now make a start on the lion, and as always, I'm kind of starting from the top down. It helps me a lot to get the top of the head done, and that usually includes the ears when I'm painting an animal. It can also feel like a bit of a slow start sometimes because I'm really trying to figure out what order to layer up the colours. You can see from this that even though from a distance lions might look like they're pretty much all one colour, when you get up close like this, you really start to see all of those different browns and creams and even blacks mixed through the fur to create that kind of texture. So people often talk about how difficult it is to paint a tiger. Any of the big cats are tricky. Any of them that have a particular pattern like a tiger, of course, that is tricky too. But don't underestimate the lions. Even though they look a bit more plain and they don't have as much pattern going on, their fur can be deceivingly tricky. And this is what I find when I'm painting cats in general. They just have so much fur. It is layered up in such a thick way that it takes extra time to capture it. So pretty early on, I decided to get some eyes looking back at us. And then it is just a long time spent adding layer after layer of colour on the fur. Not only do I want to get all of the colours in there, but using multiple layers like this gives the fur a very convincing, thick kind of texture. So as always, I'm starting with the darker colours that I can see. So the colours that I see in underneath, the colours in at the roots of the hairs. And then I gradually build that up to my lighter values. But you can see as well that I really went for some of the vibrant colours. I almost exaggerated some of those warm brown earths and red earths. And I went for really zingy, vibrant versions of those colours. In my original photo reference, the lighting is quite stark and quite contrasted. And because I'm not the best photographer in the world, the colours of the little lion kind of felt a bit washed out. And that's really just my photography skills are a bit lacking when it comes to capturing things that truly shows the colours that I could see at the time. So it's sort of a mixture between working from my photo reference, a little bit from my memory of actually seeing the lion cub, which is helpful. But then also before I start to work on something like this, I will do a little bit of work to the photo reference, just enhancing some of the colours, trying to get a better visualization of what I want to go for in the painting. So it's always worth playing about with your photo reference before you start to paint. And you can see now those marks that come down the front of his face, down the top of his nose, getting smaller and smaller as we come down towards the nose. So there's just a few things to bear in mind when you're painting any kind of fur. Part of it, of course, are the colours that you're using, the colours that you layer up. But then another big part of this is the direction of your marks. So the direction that you make your marks in really starts to describe the structure of the animal underneath. And then finally also the length of your marks. So we go from longer fur on the top of his head right down to the nose where we've got little dots really representing the very, very short fur down the front of the face. So if you can make sure that your marks are going in the direction of the hairs and that you're really paying attention to where the hairs are longer or shorter, this is half the battle in capturing an animal realistically. So in this full length tutorial series, I will have a lot to talk about. Lots of colour going into this coat. I'm really trying to exaggerate the colours as much as I can and intensify the lighting in the piece. I've gone for really rich blue sky colours behind, coming down to the lovely yellow grass effect. And I'm able to make use of all of those colours from the background in the lion cub as well. So that is my number one tip for if you're changing the background, if you're working on a photo reference but you're changing the background. It's always good to try and include some colours both in the background and in your main subject. And if you can repeat some of those colours, so spread some of that colour palette right across the whole painting, I find that that helps to create colour harmony. And if you can create colour harmony, then you're creating more realism and giving the impression that this animal really is in this environment. So a lot of the time when I'm thinking about colour, what I'm really thinking about is the light. What is the light doing? And where can I see all of those colours bouncing around the painting? So although it is majority browns, brown earths, red earths, all very warm colours going into him, you can see a lot of places where I have used some of those dusky blues from the background to create little bits of shadow. And now I begin work on the branch. So because it's right here in the foreground, I really don't want it to distract too much from the little lion. So I tried to put a bit less detail into the branch. If you're working along with me, these are decisions that you can make differently if you choose. If you decide to get the pastel pencils out and really go into detail on the branch, that is possible. In this case, I just wanted to create the very dark shadows in underneath the paws and the chin, helping to ground the little lion cub on this branch, make him look like he's really leaning on it. And then it was also a case of using some of my pastel pencils, going back through areas of the fur, building up more layers, adding fine little hairs around the edges of everything. So it's definitely a bit of a marathon when you're painting a big cat, because I don't think there's anything else that has quite as much thick fur as when I paint a big cat. But a most enjoyable little face to look at. I'm glad that I finally got round to painting this one. And I know that many of my patrons are waiting for this full-length tutorial. So I'm looking forward to seeing lots of versions of him pop up. If you do work along with me, as always, if you post it online somewhere, do tag me. I love to see the results from some of the tutorials. And I'll just mention again that if you have lost contact with me on Instagram over the last few months, I was hacked and got my whole account deleted, unfortunately. I'm back there now though. I would love if you would come and link up with me again. I've lost contact with so many of you. But thanks very much for watching this here. Do remember to check out the full-length tutorial, but I hope that you've enjoyed seeing this come together in time-lapse as well. All of your views and your likes and your comments help me out here so much. So thanks again for watching here, and until next time, happy pasteling.